Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fairfield Future Famous podcast. I'm your host, Angelo Corsini, and with me today in the studio are Evan Cronin, also known as OK Cron online, and Matthew Storms, also known as that Matt Storms. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Sure. So I'm just gonna talk to you a little bit about your content creation and being a student at Fairfield. This podcast series is going to be like a profile of content creators on campus and the sort of lifestyle that comes with that. So Evan, I'm gonna start with you, and Matt, jump in whenever you want. You have over 2.5 million followers on TikTok. Is that right?
That is right.
2.6, and you've also got like 1,350,000 so on YouTube. That's really impressive.
Yes, thank you very much.
Of course. So how did you start making content? Like, what was your inspiration? How do you decide that this is something that you want to do?
So that's a great question. I always bring it back to the story of actually me and Matt in junior year of high school. This is 2019 fall. We would make videos like on TikTok, and we wouldn't post them, but we'd like keep them as drafts essentially, and we'd bring them to lunch and basically entertain ourselves with these little like memes, and we thought we were like hilarious, but we never really posted any. And then it came to a point when it was quarantine, right? And we were like, all right, nobody can make fun of us in school for this if it's stupid or cringe and silly. So why don't we just post them, right? There's nobody here to talk about it, so why don't we just find our people online? And that's really when things kind of switched. And so I began to post a lot during quarantine, as did Matt, and then from there it just kind of grew into something bigger while creating a consistent routine with it and trying to keep myself entertained while also doing what I know will do well and will be received well, and incorporating things that I actually want to talk about and do.
Yeah, so we all had online school.
Mm-hmm.
Homework wasn't so much as a struggle. I feel like we all had a lot of free time also without our extracurriculars, everything being shut down. So that provided the opportunity for you to, explore this new realm, this new passion.
Yeah, I would say definitely just to hop in. I think also just the fact that like during that time everyone's kind of like more bored. I think our school also, like our high school, I would say generally was like very rigorous, I guess. But like during COVID, obviously like teachers were transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt like I think we had a lot of free time, especially as it got into like summer. That's because really when I started. But.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that too, I just think that as people began to stay at home, they wanted stuff to do, whether that was to be a part of something bigger, whether that was talking to friends online or playing Xbox or even going on bike rides. People did. Everyone was trying to find something to do and keep themselves not bored because everyone had so much time. We found that people were really going on TikTok and they were really kind of interested in what we were talking about, and that's really where things kind of switched. And we noticed that there was people that wanted to be entertained by these videos and people that actually really resonated with what we were doing, what we were talking about, and it really just grew into something bigger. But I would say definitely the boredom that COVID and quarantine brought significantly changed our lives.
You guys started around the same time. You've been friends since high school, and yet your content is very different from one another.
Yeah.
Evan, you do sort of like traditional TikTok trends, like doing ranking videos. You got the caption and the music in the background, no words usually. And Matt, you go for this more like sketch comedy sort of style.
Yeah. I think that would just happen like naturally as like we found like our niche and like what we were kind of good at. To Evan's point earlier too, I think also which COVID definitely helped with, was how like TikTok really shifted the entire like comedy like scene as far as just like memes and like traditional comedy just across like social media, because it used to be very like text on a picture.
Yeah.
But like when TikTok really started growing, which was 2019, 2020, especially the lockdowns helped a lot. That kind of changed like how content was perceived. So like I started like in summer 2020, which was I think a little actually pretty much after Evan. Evan was doing it for a few months then. And I kind of started off doing like kind of similar to what Evan does now, well, a lot worse. Um, and like I didn't really like, not that I didn't find too much like traction with it, and I didn't like love it a lot. And then just gradually over time, as I was trying things, and like just making videos more so off like things I've experienced,
Yeah.
it kind of transformed into more like skits and like sketch comedy. And I think that's kind of where we ended up in different sectors of social media comedy world.
Yeah, I find your content really relatable, Matt. One of your
Thank you.
recent videos, I think it was about the time in your car like being off,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I shared that with one of my friends because I dropped her off at the train station one time, and her train wasn't like supposed to be coming, for another like 10 minutes or whatever. So she was just waiting in my car, and then like a train pulls into the station. She's like, "Wait, is that mine?" I'm like, "No, you got 5 minutes left," and she, "Let me just check just in case," and it was, um, and then the punchline with that video they were waiting at, like, it's the 23 hour.
Yeah, the 23 out. All they had to do is wait like 50 minutes for
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, exactly. It's things like that. Like yeah, I just always remember like even my mom's old minivan and my car now. Even the clock is just always off and can never trust it. But yeah, I mean, little things like that. I think trying to be observational, and finding kind of relatable things, and then also how to like build upon it to make it so it's a little more long form, and also just like new, because there's a lot of like relatable things you could talk about, but like how do you make that funny instead of just like pointing at it and laughing?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point too. And to Matt's point, the big shift that we've discussed actually so many times sitting back in the studio, just, thinking about content and thinking about how this has evolved. It's really 2019. It used to be those like meme pages that would dominate Instagram. And as TikTok grew, it became personalities.
Yeah.
Right? It became people that others wanted to tune into every day, whether you're
Mhm.
talking about, daily routines, or you're just making a funny video, or you're talking about a serious topic, whatever it is. People really became enthralled with the personalities online, and I
Yeah.
think that's where things really shifted. But to Matt's point about evolving and content creation and being different, we've always said like everyone wants to be special, but nobody wants to be different. And I think that quote's always resonated with me and him, because I personally have always found a way to be entertained by what I'm doing, but never really chasing one moment. I could sit here and do the same old, but even I'd get bored of that, and I don't want to, keep my fans in the same boat. So just always trying to do something new and having fun with it and keeping yourself entertained, I think, is what's most important if you actually want to pursue this.
Yeah, and to your point of like that shift that happened in the TikTok sphere, I remember when I first heard about it, my main form of entertainment is YouTube, right? I just watch
Right.
YouTubers. And in high school, I was really into PewDiePie. PewDiePie would do his meme reviews, or like TikTok reactions, you laugh, you lose,
Right.
sort
right.
of things. And in the beginning, at least, it felt like, it was very meme centered, or like people started doing it genuinely, and then like the whole internet just kind of like dogpiled on, and we're like
Mhm.
making fun of these people with "I want to be Tracer," these 2018 memes.
Yeah.
And then the rise of like the TikTok like content creation houses, with the
Yeah.
D'Amelios and stuff like that. And then, it just sort of became just accepted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody started doing it, doing their own thing, and it just became just another social media page, and like the most popular one at that, at least amongst our generation.
Yeah, I would say that's a great like observation of it, because at first like you would see like TikTok videos like being posted on Instagram. A lot of it would just be people like making fun of people for being
Yeah.
like on TikTok, and then people kind of just started posting that instead of like their regular like meme content.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there just kind of came a point where everyone's like just people are making fun of it, but you're still using it, and then so it became serious. And I think that's a good thing. I think TikTok changed how like small creators or people that are just creative in general can share something, without having to like pay for it. A lot of social medias before TikTok, Instagram especially, it's like good luck trying to grow a page if you're starting with 0 followers.
Yeah.
It seemed like you had to kind of be grandfathered into like an earlier time. So I think they kind of changed the competition and changed how like anybody could share something and get people to view it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good point. And to what Matt's saying about how it's changed the game, I'd say in good and bad ways. It's given light to a lot of smaller people, smaller personalities that, can go big, right, including myself. But there was a good quote that I was reading a few weeks ago that said, like, the level of connoisseurship can be low when there's a TikTok video of somebody doing, like, a crappy dance and it gets 100,000 views, and there's, a video of the next Adele singing a cover song getting the same amount of views. It's perceived the same, right? All content, in a sense, is created equal. Obviously, we know what stands out, but to a viewer, sometimes it's perceived as the same, and I think it's oftentimes difficult for them to navigate. Is this good because it's great, or is this good because it has good views? Are we really putting out great content, or is this just, to kind of fit in with what everyone else is doing? It's kind of hard to navigate sometimes, but I've always said to Matt, like, a good heart is always going to win. Like, for the right reasons, you'll always put yourself in the right position. So just always finding a new way to stay entertained by it, and, not just being what everyone else is. Always being different is going to be the key.
Yeah. And Evan, I want to bring up something, like, one of the big highlights, I think, from your content creation career last summer. You know what I'm talking about. No Poop July.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that idea? And through that trend that you started, you actually made a positive difference in the world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. No Poop July started as an idea by Anas, who is phase chemo. In summer of 2020, he gave me this idea. I think he made like some few videos with that audio, and he's like, we should run up No Poop June. And this was like late June of 2020. And I'm like, like, I like the idea, right? It plays off of, other memes, but, it wouldn't make sense to have this done in like June 25th. You know what I mean? It didn't really fit. But I was like, what about July? And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, let's try it. And I started it, and I kept going. And then a few months later, he passed.
Oh.
And from there, I've kind of just carried it on, almost like thinking about him, and also the fact that, my audience kind of demands it. It's a bit of a combination of both. But recently, I've tried to, create initiatives to not just, make it like from A to B series, and almost creating new things with it. Like, we did a mobile game last year that went #1 on the charts. I did the donation with the movie at the end of it. That was super fun. And next year, or this year really, I want to do a donation where people can send in like $1 and it goes to one role. And then at the end, I don't want to be leaking any of my moves here, but at the end of the month, I would drop a similar, movie or documentary style video that has, the total amount that was raised, and then use that to donate to some local charity, or maybe go for a widespread donation. I think the last one I did was 2 different spots near me, but maybe this time going a little bit farther, traveling maybe to different parts of the country, or maybe going international with it, given that, there's demand for it, would be a good idea.
That's great. Yeah. I didn't know about the backstory of that. I didn't know it had been going on for multiple years,
Yeah.
or that, this is part of keeping your friend's memory alive. So that's really great.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. You talked a little bit about that mobile game. You had a pretty big partnership this past December with the soft drink company Starry, previously known as Sierra Mist. You released a video last summer, like a music video about Starry. Now, how did that partnership with Starry begin? Was it kind of just like you started making Starry content in hopes that they would like notice you and partner with you? How did that come about?
So that's a great question. I don't know if I could say it on air too much, but I'll give you the rundown. For years, I made Sprite Cranberry content.
Yes.
From 2019 to 2023, and I just believe that I could always do something bigger with the parent company, and I never got that recognition.
Yeah, I remember in high school, he was like making me like during lunch. This was before like COVID or anything.
It's 2019.
He was like dressed up as like as one of the Sprite characters. He's like making me like go around and try to get like the best photo of him.
Yeah. The one on my Instagram on the bottom is actually taken by Matt.
Yeah.
No, the real thing though was that I was always doing really, really great impressions and numbers and engagement with it. And I always felt like I wanted to do something bigger, but it just never got to that point, and it upset me, and I didn't know what to do. I always felt like I was almost talking to like a brick wall, and I just wanted to chase that partnership, and it was going to be right. It was going to fit with what I was doing, and it just didn't happen. And I can't sit here and complain about it. I can't sit here and keep harking on one moment. I decided to take a step back, and I reached out, and they believed in me as much as I believed in them. And now it's about going farther than just, oh yeah, okay, Cronin did this one time, that was great, but now it's about what's next.
Yeah.
Right? Is this going to be creating a commercial? Is it a music video? Does it make sense with my content? Is it dropping a new flavor?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, back to what I was saying before, like never chasing one moment, right? I could sit here and, only do the Cranberry content for 1 year, right? In 2023, I could have ended it all. But I decided to take a different approach, and I knew that I had the demand and the hype for it, and now it's about creating a fit for my audience. I don't really want to push out something that I don't believe in and that I don't think is actually valuable. So I always just kind of go with that. But I would say that it blends well with my content. I really like what we're doing right now, and just always trying to push it to a new boundary.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now let's switch over to talking a little bit to Matt over here. So what are your comedy inspirations? Do you have other content creators or like channels that you look to that you say, I like what they're doing, I kind of want to do something a little similar? Something that comes to my mind, when I look at your content, is American High.
Yeah.
They're super big right now. Or Almost Friday TV.
Right.
They do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think generally when I'm trying to like think of ideas, it really is just things that I like, just something that I find relatable or I observed before. And the best way I think of coming up with ideas, and I tell Evan this, is just like to just be bored, like just like stare at a wall, because then just like things will come to you. You have nothing else like kind of like distracting you, or like, especially like nowadays, even myself, I'm always like, if I'm not doing anything, the first thing I do is pick up my phone.
Yeah.
So I try to not do that. But to answer your question, really, I do kind of base it off of what I've experienced, but I also do keep in touch with the channels you were saying and like the kind of skit type of niche. Just because it's, first of all, they're very funny to watch other content creators make these types of videos, but it is kind of like you do kind of get a feel for maybe even just how to film something or like some writing. Just I guess a fun fact kind of that influenced me is like my parents they're big fans of SNL.
Yeah.
And they probably let me watch that when I was too young. But I feel like that's also always been kind of like not a standard, but like in the sense of that's always kind of been an influence too. Just being able to not take yourself too seriously and kind of having a bit of like a hyperbole in each kind of video and being able to take it a few steps farther than just like a general observation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good at heightening. There's a slope to, the exaggeration.
Accelerating it.
Classic rule of comedy. So when inspiration strikes, you have a notebook or like your notes app that you just like write it down.
Yeah, and so I have a notes app, and Evan's been trying to get me to put it on a Google Doc so that we can kind of like work it out together. But yeah, so many of my ideas, honestly, like I never even like do. And maybe I'm like too critical, and Evan probably thinks that. But I like I said, I like to do something more than just, like I said, like a generic observation. Not that observational humor is bad, but like I try to make my content more qualitative than quantitative. So I want to make it more than just whatever the title says on a video.
Yeah.
So a lot of times like it'll be a good idea, but I'm like, this is like a 10-second video. Like I can't make this like a whole skit. And then for Evan's case, obviously his videos are shorter, but again, different niche. So I'm not trying to say that short content's worse. I'm just saying that for what I'm trying to do. But yeah, so I'll typically try to just put it on my notes app, which helps because sometimes, I'll be in like a creative drought, I'll say, where there's just like a week where I'm just like not thinking about video ideas. So I can always reference that. I'll try to write a sketch, a script if I have time, which I've been recently trying to do, and I've noticed that my videos tend to be more thought out and like consistently do well if I write it out as like an actual script, even though it's just me performing it. I think it just helps me. Like I'll just read it out loud, read over what I'm saying, and then I'll see like, oh, that doesn't flow, or instead he should say this. I think that's kind of part of the process, is really just thinking it out, and not jumping on an idea too soon to let it mature so it can actually realize its full potential.
And there are some videos that you do that have, I guess, like more production value put into them with like green screen, and there's some really clever editing going on with your recent restaurant video about like making the joke to the waiter. You're playing multiple customers in the restaurant. And even when you're not speaking as the role of another customer, like a picture of you, will be far in the background or something like that. How long does it take you to make a video like that with that sort of production value?
Evan's laughing
Too
right
long.
now. Yeah, too
Too
long. No, it can take me like a few hours just for that video, because I like editing on my phone, which I know is insane. So like I don't really use Adobe
Premiere.
like Premiere and like which I really should. I have a laptop; it can run it. I'm sure it's worth the investment if I purchased it or subscribed to it.
Computers in the media center have them already installed, so you can use those for free.
That's even better. I should know. And that's the thing, is like I should do it, and it probably slows me down that I don't. But I'm just so used to. I don't use like inside TikTok or Instagram. I use like external apps on my phone, and I'm just so used to using them. But they don't also have a lot of features, so I have to be very scrappy with it. But yeah, it does take me a few hours, but I think it can be worth it in the end. Like a rule of thumb for me, and what's kind of kept me going, is that I don't make videos just so they perform. Obviously, I make them so they're digestible on each like platform, so that they have a chance and opportunity to do well. Maybe it sounds selfish, but like I really make sure the video is funny to me first. If it's not funny to me, then I don't really want to post it.
Yeah.
So like to me, even if I spend all that time editing and it doesn't do as well as I'd like it to do, it's still rewarding, because I'll just like watch Evan sees me, I'll just watch back my videos and just laugh at them, even if that sounds again selfish or insane. But that's literally what I love to do it, and yeah, so I'll do it however long it takes.
Hey, if you're not making the content that you yourself would enjoy, like that, I think that's a mark of quality. To turn it over to more of like the university and stuff, what are both of you studying? What's your major here at Fairfield U?
So I'm a finance and management double major, and I'll be taking my 5th year to do a master's in business management.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm a business management major with a marketing minor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're looking to go into that business realm. Is content creation, you think, do you see that maybe as a potential future career path, or is it something you would do just, for fun in your free time?
Yeah, I mean, I
mean, you don't have to have it all figured out,
Just like, I like the question. It's a good question. Broadly speaking, yes, I do want to go into content creation, and more so like into comedy.
Yeah.
Is that financially a wise decision? Maybe not, depending if I can
Hey,
get a
it
job
could
or not.
be. It could go bonkers.
Yeah, it could go. I think it would be worth the investment. I believe in myself. But yeah, I mean, I think it's valuable to have like a stable job too. Like that's part of my job. Like Evan's going to get his MBA. I'm hopping right into the workforce. But I think I'm gonna try at least to do both, and kind of give myself some stability. But also, like, I'm also ready to. It's fun doing something for yourself, but it's also good to contribute to something bigger than yourself as well. So I think there's upside to doing both.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a communication and theater double major. I got a minor in film. But acting, is always something that I know I love doing. I love to act, and I thought about being an actor for my career, but it's just so difficult.
It's hard,
to break into the industry. And the advice I've gotten from my theater professors and stuff is, like, if you want to perform, you gotta go into the city. You gotta do the auditions.
Right.
You gotta shoot your shot and take your chance. And even if it's like only for a year, hey, you tried, and you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, no,
after.
it's true. It's true. You really gotta just try.
Mhm.
That's the best you can do. It is tough breaking into that. Yeah, really just try your best. That'd be the good advice.
What about you, Evan?
So I would be doing my MBA, but I also run an imprint media label that Matt is quote unquote signed to. As I've always said, it doesn't matter about a signature here, but we essentially run a multidisciplinary creative firm that we have artists and creators and people that help us out if we're doing a project. Obviously, not everyone on that label, if you will, has done some crazy projects, but the goal is to loop everyone in. I've got him, I've got my friends Ben and John, Michael, etc. on this team, and the idea is if we can creatively surround ourselves in the right moments, and we can go on a project for that, maybe something for the Minecraft movie that's coming out in a week or so, or maybe something for like another brand or a bigger collection of some sort. If we can infuse what we're doing online and create something bigger, we can really make an impact. And that's the same to be said with the Starry stuff that we did this past summer and then in the winter, and the music stuff that I'm currently doing with Andy and Millie Prame as well. And really just not chasing one moment, right? As Matt said, it's nice when you're actually creating something for a bigger impact, right? You're working on something for others, or you're helping create something new. And I think that for me, it could be so easy to just make the three videos I do a day and, just wipe my hands and call it a night.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I'd rather try something new, help others out, and also experience something new. It's so easy to get bored of the same old, same old. Why not try to go out there and do something new?
Yeah. Can you share the name of your label?
Yeah, Soon. Produced by Soon. So that's on Instagram, and that's really kind of where we operate. But for me, with them, it's really about how can we infuse what we're doing online to really connect the dots and
Mhm.
push for broader campaigns or broader ideas to go further.
Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. So on campus, do you guys get recognized a lot?
On campus, like occasionally,
Uh-huh.
I think I don't know. I know like TikTok and like Instagram, so a lot of it's like geolocation too,
Yeah, yeah.
specifically TikTok. So like that's kind of like I didn't really tell anybody when I was here, and then like there like one kid on my floor freshman year was like, "Hey, I just saw your video, like nice," and then like everybody knew, and I was like, "Okay," and it's cool, and it's rewarding to see people. Like, oh, I like your video from X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I would say actually on campus, I would say not as many people at least come up to me
Mhm.
and say it, but it does happen occasionally. I would say more so outside of school. It probably happens more.
Yeah, the way I found out that you were a content creator was actually it's funny. One of your videos showed up on my YouTube Shorts, right? I don't have TikTok. I use YouTube Shorts. But it was like the stand-up comedian getting heckled,
Oh yeah,
and that was a good one.
Thanks.
But I saw it and I laughed and moved on to the next one, and then like I didn't even like recognize you, and I don't know if that was before or after. We had an anthropology class together. I don't know if it was before or after, but then it like came up on my timeline again, and I was like, oh wait, I've seen this video, and I was like, wait a second. I know that guy. I was like, wait, he sat next to me
Yeah.
like literally
Yeah.
every class. I had no idea he was a content creator. And Evan, how I found out about you was just you. I think you were just wearing some Fairfield merch like in one of your videos. I was like, oh, this guy goes to Fairfield?
Yeah, same thing with me. I never told anybody that I came here, and that was intentional in the first year or so, so
Mhm.
that there wasn't a target on our backs, right? So it wasn't I'm the big famous TikToker here, guys. Everyone look at me. Like it's
Yeah.
we're all people at the end of the day. We all eat at the same spot. We eat the same
Totally.
pancakes at the Tully.
Yeah.
We use the same residency. So it's like, to me, you don't really have to be kind of the big guy on campus to still be successful, to still have friends, to still do what you want to do, in any sense, right? Whether you're an athlete or whether you're a content creator or whether you're making the next NASA spaceship. So for me, I've always got that mentality that like I'm still friends with, my roommates. We go out and get food. Like I'm a normal person, we all do the same kind of thing. But later on, I would say I was more comfortable with talking about it. But I always just viewed it at first that it was like almost like a target on my back, and I was going to go here to kind of experience what life was like as a college student, still am, of course, and just see that firsthand instead of like taking an approach of like, oh, I don't even want to be here. Like, this stinks. And I just want to do the videos full time. Like, no, I want to experience what this is like. I want to meet new friends. I want to hang out with people and live my life.
Yeah, I mean, college is I think, just such a valuable experience. Just, meeting other people, getting different perspectives, in addition to what you're learning in class. Also, I know I personally have grown so much as a person throughout the 4 years I've been here at Fairfield. It's really incredible what being exposed to those different ideas, does to you. It expands your mindset. You might find a new passion. Your talents get encouraged, and you get your independence. You're not living at home.
Absolutely.
You get to make decisions for yourself. So for that reason alone, college is just such a formative time in somebody's life.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely part of it too. Like when we got here, I mean, we're also younger, had less of a, I guess, following and like a commitment to some degree. And so like part of it was for me is just like I didn't really know how to like bring it up. Like it's like you don't meet someone and be like, hey, by the way, go follow me. Like
yeah.
Like so like I think that was part of it too. But yeah, it's true. I mean, it's always been something like important to me, and I guess something that I've always like just like I've never wanted to like quit. I just always have enjoyed doing it. So, but I still kind of, I guess like my first like year here or something, it was kind of like a side thing I did. Not that I wouldn't focus a lot of my attention on it, but like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't make it like my whole like identity. Not that I really try to now, but like I think that's part of it. It's like, again, like you said, it's like you're still like growing into like college. You're still kind of like figuring things out. I mean, we're all still figuring things out, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you're a teenager. Like, COVID lockdown, like still just kind of ending.
It's crazy that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
No, not at all.
It literally feels like last year still.
I know.
To me.
No, I still think of like sometimes I'll like think of something that it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I was like just there. It was like 2 weeks ago.
It's like the meme that's when you see a 2016 YouTube video and it says 9 years ago instead of 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw. Yeah, it was like a YouTube. I forget what video it was, but it was like it was some like it looked like the video was recorded like a week ago. And it was like whatever, like what you I'm trying to do the math now. Yeah, like 7 years ago, and I was like, oh, 7 years ago. In my mind, I'm thinking like 2011.
Yeah,
it's like 2018. I'm like, what?
2018, I think, was the peak of me being like, jacked into the internet, of like just being aware of like meme culture and stuff. So in my mind, like, Crab Rave is, like the peak of comedy. Like,
but the thing is, like, if you made like a joke like that, to me that meme was like 2 years ago.
I know,
like,
right?
Even though it wasn't, like, it just feels that way.
It's the 2020 paradox, as I've referred to it with Matt. There's this strange feeling that I think everyone kind of agrees upon, that COVID took so long. Like, that first year took so long off of everyone's time, being around family, being at home.
Right.
Not going out to, shows or, music festivals, whatever it is, that period has felt like so long that we attribute that to being like 3 years in our mind, where we look back on, that time, we're still kind of like locked into, oh, it's only 2020, 2022, 2021.
Right.
And it just obviously is a bit of a fictional paradox, but it has some like weird alignment in my brain, at least, for what I'm thinking of. I've always referenced like the video I made one time that was you open your YouTube watch later and you see like all the old videos, and they're like 13, 14 years ago, and it's the Dan TDM Minecraft Xbox 360 Let's Play.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Stampy Long Nose ones and all these other, memorable things that I felt like were only a short time ago. Really, they were over a decade ago. And it's in part due to the fact that we were home for so long for COVID, and a lot of people really kind of got either, like me and Matt, super, super into it and thrived off of it, and others, took a different approach, and maybe they weren't out there as much, or they didn't talk to many people. And I think that depends on who it was, but I would say that it had a really positive effect on some, and a obviously super negative effect. I can't just say that without saying it was a terrible time. People
Yeah.
were passing away,
Of course.
but I would say that for the youth and for people our age, it really had an either super positive or super negative effect.
Yeah, I would say like Evan and I we're lucky.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm just that like during COVID we were able to just kind of chill and have the time to make videos. 'Cause I always say like there could be someone out there who's like 50 times funnier than me. But it's like if they have to hold down like 3 jobs just to make like a rent and help their family, they may never have their time.
Yeah.
But also just in the sense that just our industry, I think social media has so many ups and downs, but it has a lot of downsides. Even just for myself, and I think just our generation as a whole is on it way too much, or at least like relies on it for entertainment way too much, which is coming from a guy who benefits
Yeah.
from it. But it really is where it's like I think comedy and like that kind of industry really is beneficial. I mean, even you just see like stand-up comedians, like their whole career like takes
Yeah.
off just from that, and as they should, they're very talented. But then it also brings up a lot of not so great content. Obviously, not to get into like politics and stuff like that. Of course, there's ramifications there, but just in general, of people who maybe they don't love making content, they just like the followers and like the money that comes with it, and people end up consuming content that
attention.
isn't authentic, and they spend hours on their phone watching content that doesn't really help them. Not that it has to help them, but isn't really good, I guess.
I totally agree with you about look. I was like an anti like social media person my entire life. I still am.
Yeah, not a bad thing.
Yeah. I literally, people are so surprised, but I did not have any social media platforms at all until just this last summer. Or I guess if you count LinkedIn, okay. I had LinkedIn.
Barely one. That's a free. I'll give you.
Yeah,
free,
I don't
free
I don't
space.
consider that social media. But Instagram, I downloaded Instagram over the summer, and my parents were encouraging me to do it. My parents were also like really against social media, and then slowly but surely, my dad got on Facebook, my mom got on Instagram, and then they're just using it all the time. But they were like, you should get Instagram to like connect with your friends and see what they're up to, and I did, and I like posting like my own stuff, but even just like a half a year, having this constant database of like what my friends are doing, what they're doing without me, like I've been feeling some burnout, and I've only been on the platform for
it's definitely
6
valid.
months.
Yeah, I remember. It's very ironic, but my junior year of high school, actually just around the time I wasn't posting yet, but I think Evan kind of was, and I was obviously to some extent helping. Not to pin myself to you, Evan, but my junior year we had like a research paper. It was like our kind of like a big thesis that year.
Yeah.
And my thesis, I got an A on it too. It was pretty much that social media is bad for you, and I think what my thesis was is it should be for sharing, not comparing, which is kind of a no-brainer, obviously. But for junior year myself, who was probably addicted to social media, I was like, whoa.
That's deep.
Yeah, the way people use social media obviously has changed. And I think TikTok kind of has helped it. I think people post more like organically, just like silly filters and like videos
Interesting.
of themselves. And it's more for like their close friends, where I feel like on Instagram and like Facebook, it's just like anybody you've ever like walked by is like you add, and then you post, and it's like you're curating what you post because you don't want anything bad, or like you want it to seem organic, but like not really. It's like that's not really a way. It's like not even a social media. It's actually very like antisocial. And I think, like I said, it can be really good for sharing art and sharing achievements and helping maybe people who feel like they're the only one to feel like connected to other people. But at the same time, I think you can't use it as like a marker for comparison. I don't know. I think a lot, especially our generation, as I say, I think people spend so much time on it. It's like people live more on social media than they do in their real world, which sounds like such like a okay boomer, like or whatever. But like I think it's true. I think you have to understand at the end of the day, these social media companies are publicly traded companies that have to make a profit, and they need to make you kind of get on your phone and stay there. And it's important to remind yourself what they're there for and what their utility is. And in my mind, it's to connect to people, and it's also for entertainment, but it should never be anything more than that. It's not an indicator of who you are, or the value you bring. Like TikTok could be banned. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like I said, and I would lose a huge chunk of my followers or videos, although I save them all. But if it goes away, I know that's not an indicator of who I am. That's now you're not worth talking to anymore
because you lost like
you lost your
600,000.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And I think it's easy to say because I've gained followers from posting, so it's like I've kind of had validation to kind of boost my confidence.
Yeah.
Where people who don't post may feel like they don't get that validation, so they never know really where they stand. But yeah, I would just say that social media isn't who you are, and everyone approaches social media differently, and it's not a place to be lived in.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Evan? What do you think?
3 main pointers here. Social media is obviously everyone's highlight reel. It doesn't show for, most people the bad days or the times when, they didn't feel like they belonged, or maybe, didn't have, a good moment with their friends, or, family matters, whatever it is. And I think that people need to know, their limits, essentially. Me and Matt have always said, like, the reason we started making videos back in quarantine was, people were so bored and so sad that they needed someplace to go to smile. And I've always kind of kept that mantra of like, hey, I'm going to, put out what I love doing, and hopefully people will resonate with it. I'm not out here making some like crazy claims or making, something that's, defamating others or hurting people. We're here to share like cool moments and try to make people smile, try to make people laugh. And through that, I've taken this approach of, hey, I'm here to, share what I like doing, and hopefully people like it too. But I noticed that for myself, I'm not on social media a lot. Like I put down the phone a lot sometimes if I'm going outside and just thinking of ideas, or I'm going outside and playing Pokemon Go. Like I'm out there all the time playing. And it's, getting off of social media and knowing my limits and saying, hey, when's the good time to step back? And that's how you live. And I think so many people are living on social media. They're not living in the real world enough. And I think that eventually that'll change. But I think that people being from, lockdown, so glued to their phones because they didn't have anything else, have gotten so used to, hey, I open Instagram as a habit, right? I'm just on my phone, and I click it and I swipe out of it, and then I click it again.
Yeah.
and it's just like this like constant, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you have to know when to step back and live life. Like you're not going to go very far just solely being on your phone. Some people might, for sure, but you won't be very happy doing that all the time. You won't be hanging out with your friends, or maybe going on a date, or even spending time with your family. So I think you got to know like your limits. Obviously, we're all on social media, at least me and Matt, to make good content and make people laugh, make people smile, but also, to connect with others and use that as a service to share. But, it's always everyone's highlight reel, and it's never a true indicator of, someone's real value, even mine, or, somebody's, true personality.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great note to end off this first episode on. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Do you want to like tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you online?
Everyone go follow Matt Storms on all platforms. Make sure that you're subbed on YouTube, and
At OKCron, at Cron.
yeah,
Evan.
I got at Cronin on Instagram. That was a long process, but we made it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And on campus, you guys are part of the Ultimate Frisbee Cup, right? You run
Yes.
that. All right.
So that's been fun. Hopefully we're going to get a few games and a few tournaments left this semester, but time's running out. So we'll have
Yeah.
to figure that out.
May's
for sure.
approaching fast. Graduation
Yeah.
day.
Oh,
It's
man.
crazy. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Fairfield's Future Famous podcast. I've been your host, Angelo Corsini. Thank you to Evan. Thank you to Matt for coming on the pod. And I'll see about uploading this to different platforms, maybe Apple Podcasts in the future. I don't know. Evan said he would help me with that, teach me how to do that. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and see you next week. Bye.